Hi, folks. This is Dr. Emily Scherning with AR. I want to talk to you today about a kind of viewer question that I get a lot of, which is why are your destination regions always so cold? Can't you find me a destination that's going to feel like Atlanta's climate in the 90s? That's nice. That's where people want to live. And, like the overwhelming number of you who have made this request make a clear and evident point. That's clearly where people want to live, is places with a mild year-round climate. And I feel like it's worth digging in a little bit to why I have this preference for destination regions with a cold winter. And it has to do with my background. I am by training a microbiologist. My doctorate is in microbiology. So I often see the world with like more of a disease lens than other people might, and then other people in the climate space might. And I want to explore with you a little bit more about why I'm so bullish on climate destinations with cold winters related to disease and other societal factors. So let's review the data for a second. Let's look at how winters are expected to change in the US. So we've got our good friend, the plant hardiness zone viewer here, and this is based on historical data from the 80s to 2009. So I know gardening friends, this has already changed a reasonable bit. We expect a drift north already of these plant hardiness zones, but let's just use it as a proxy, right? I want you to keep an eye here on zone 6, this dark green zone. Keep these borders in your mind, kind of kissing up into the hand of Michigan and then down with the sort of the Kansas-Nebraska border as an important border there. And then let's look at the potential range of Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus in the United States in 2017. Those are both types of mosquitoes that carry tropical diseases like dengue fever, Zika virus, other things you don't really know what they are. Maybe you remember hearing about Zika virus before. These tropical diseases are very serious. They are difficult to recognize if doctors aren't used to them. These dark areas are where it's very likely that these disease-carrying mosquitoes could be living in the United States as of 2017. We see particularly for Aedes aegypti, there's like a pretty solid overlap where it's likely they're going to be able to survive a zone 6 winter. I also want to look at another class of disease carrying insect, which is the tick. And I'm sorry if I used the wrong word. Is it tick an insect? It might be more like an arachnid. They're disgusting. That's what matters. So you see, this is from the CDC. This map of ticks is not from as official a source. It's Dr. Chuck Noonan's tick map. He's a veterinarian, so he knows ticks. I love this tick map because it lets you look at all the species of tick with the words that people actually use to talk about them. I'm particularly interested in the disease spread related to deer ticks, which spread Lyme disease, and Lone Star ticks, which can cause you to become allergic to meat, a thing that many people are not that interested in, right? But like the fact that a tick that is making people allergic to meat is spreading across the United States is pretty metal, right? So if we look here, we can see a fair amount also of that zone 6 overlap in this darkest area on Dr. Noonan's map where you've got every tick. Let's look back to this plant hardiness zone viewer and see where this zone 6 band is expected to change, because areas where that's going to move, that's going to give us a good proxy for where are we going to have big spread of these disease carrying ticks. So clicking up to 2050, we do have some pretty intense movement of that zone 6 band under RCP 4.5 modeling. That's what I use as our modeling for our most likely future, 2-degree future. We can see that really fragments up here, up in New York. We get zone 7 coming in there, right? This light green, that's a very southern feeling type winter. If you're looking for a climate destination with a southern feeling type winter, these guys are your guys, right? Let's look back again. Let's look back to contemporary and future. Huge change in Ohio, right? So this is going to make it milder. It's going to extend your growing season more than you would expect the growing season to be extended here in, say, Iowa, where I live. Let's check that. Contemporary, zone 5, zone 4, future. zone 5, zone 6. You're going to see more stability in the winter west of the Great Lakes, less stability east of the Great Lakes, with a good island of stability emerging here inland in the Northeast. This area is going to be most conserved in the Northeast. This upstate New York, moving across Vermont and New Hampshire up into Maine. Those are the areas where you're going to expect the most stable cold winter, the thing you folks say none of you like, and we're going to be less covered in bugs. So as we're moving into a future where there are many threats coming together, I think it's particularly interesting and complex to talk about insect-borne disease. Because, mosquitoes, they carry disease, but they are also pollinators. We are moving into a time where more and more people are becoming aware of the insect collapse and that we need to stop broadly spraying insecticides. So the sort of community solution that we used to have, if you had a big outbreak of disease-carrying mosquitoes, to spray insecticide everywhere, that's not going to work. You're going to take out your pollinators too. You're going to eliminate your ability to set a crop. You're going to eliminate your food for birds. You're going to have big problems. Same with the ticks. If you spray anything like serious enough to kill a large number of ticks, you're making everyone else leave the party too. You're going to really mess up your ecosystem that's already going to be fragile and your insect populations that are already going to need help to be stabilized. That's a big reason why I suggest pushing up into areas with conserved coal is so that you're going to be able to have additional tools in your toolbox related to a true freeze for controlling these insect populations. We also have more a normal tick presence, particularly in the upper Midwest. If I could make a pitch for the upper Midwest, many people who hike in the winter or who hunt in the winter know that in a warm day in January, those little buggers, they can wake up. Those ticks can come and crawl on you and bite you like in January because they do overwinter. But we have other things, other factors in the ecosystem that are helping to keep their populations down. Like we already have a very helpful, healthy, friendly population of opossums, your greatest ally in the battle against ticks. And there's a real need to encourage the spread of this friendly North American marsupial up into the Northeast to help with the tick situation, which is just out of control there. I want to show you some data about how much the diagnosis of Lyme disease is exploding in the lower Northeast. So again, this data is a little old. We're looking at movement from 96 to 2018, reported Lyme disease cases. We can see that there was some expansion of reported cases in the upper Midwest, like we would expect, but in these areas which are not as possum friendly, where in Pennsylvania, in New York, there's really just an explosion of diagnosed cases. And I think that people are getting better at spotting Lyme disease in these areas where the ticks are moving in. It's really important that you get prompt diagnosis and treatment, or this can be a disease with complex neurological impacts, lasts for years. So my preference for these cold winter areas where you're going to be able to have some mitigation of the level of threat of incoming insect-borne diseases, this is in the context of a healthcare system that is already fragile. We're in the part of an era that has had just enormous medical advances. Having access to functioning antibiotics and antifungals, it's really something that I don't know that we have all fully appreciated or that we are all fully aware of the fact that this era appears to be coming to a close. So with my training in microbiology, I spent a lot of time working with bacteria in different lab settings. So I'm very familiar with the fact that most bacteria in the US have been exposed to tremendous amounts of antibiotics and are picking up genetic resistance to the vast majority of antibiotics that we have developed. And the unfortunate news is we don't appear to be getting many more of them. There have not been substantial advancements in antibiotic development in decades. The same thing for antifungals. We appear to have picked up all of the easy wins on the whole medicine front there. Tell you a story from my life. I was in the hospital recently for routine medical care. I was injured during medical care. Normally, they put like some neosporin on, they bandage you up, they send you on your way. My wounds were treated with silver nitrates, which has a physical mechanism of action, so bacteria don't become resistant to silver nitrate. It is, a more toxic medication than many of your conventional antibiotics. When I saw the doctor make that choice to treat me with silver nitrate instead of antibiotics, I saw with the eyes of someone who had been trained in microbiology a clear sign that there were dangerous bacteria, dangerous drug resistant bacteria in that hospital. When you talk about a doctor whose practice has changed enormously due to climate, where they're seeing diseases they've never seen before, where their tools that they use to treat the public are becoming less and less effective, you can see the enormous strain that this would place on individual physicians and the strain it will place on systems, on the healthcare system as a whole. I think that if you stay in a cold weather area, if you shoot for a destination with a winter, you're talking about healthcare systems that are going to have that much less strain on their back, and that contributes enormously to the well-being of our communities and to our resilience as a whole. So this was a really long-winded answer. It's why I am not focused on finding you tomorrow's 90s Atlanta. And I hope that I have revealed, some of my bias there, that coming out of a disease background, when I look at this climate data, I might be seeing it a little differently than people who are focused on the physical factors, on the weather factors, that there are additional layers that are going to lead to community well-being and resilience. It's worth noting, too, that this is not just a human issue. I want to show you a little bit about a very serious fungal pathogen that has been impacting crops in the Midwest. So this is a good close-up picture of tar spot of corn by Iowa State University. All of these black areas, this is a fungal pathogen. This is spreading since 2015 across the Midwest, spreading out, becoming more and more prevalent, and it makes it more difficult for the corn to photosynthesize because you can see it is covered in black stuff. As we move into a warmer, more humid world, that is very favorable for the development of fungal pathogens. That's one of the big threats that farmers will be dealing with across the Midwest as we work to maximize the potential in the relatively mild change forecast for the northern Midwest, is this increase in plant fungal pathogens. Right now, there's a lot of work being done, but people aren't sure what the best practice is for mitigation of tar spot of corn. And it is already reducing yields, although it does not appear that the impacted corn has any mycotoxin in it, has fungal toxins in it that would be harmful to humans or animals, and that is regularly screened. But, when we look at mitigating fungal disease in crops, usually that means spreading a huge amount of antifungals over these vast fields, right? Meaning that fungi and mold all through the environment get exposed to the antifungals. You, like me, may have enjoyed watching The Last of Us. This is a pretty entertaining show, which is fundamentally about the fungal disease in the future. I would not say that we should expect it to be a realistic primer, but fungal disease in the future is going to be more serious, and we are using up almost all of our antifungal drugs on broad scale crop applications, and particularly related to the farming of flowers, where any cosmetic defect is going to reduce your ability to sell the crop, right? So most flowers that you buy commercially, they're like soaked in antifungals. These are serious challenges. These are serious stacking challenges that I think are worth thinking about as we consider what are the most resilient parts of the US. There are challenges we're going to have to deal with, and there are challenges where we cannot rely on drug development. We're really going to need to look at holistic ecosystem service packages that allow us to contain these incoming threats. I talked about possums related to ticks, looking at creating microbial solutions like mixtures of bacteria that can outcompete these funguses and spraying them across crops is a really interesting, more eco-friendly solution that is being developed now. I don't mean to have you watch this video and come away feeling like really itchy or crawling with the threat of disease. But I do want to make you more aware and more aware of where my thinking comes from, and that there are, different ways to look at what makes a great destination. There are different ways to look at the challenges that are coming towards us in the future. This is fundamentally why I focus on the cold. I will be trying to do more to fight my own bias towards the cold and promote warmer winter destinations because I know people are very interested in that. I hope this makes my thinking clear. Thanks for listening. Let's get ready together. Bye. Everybody, thank you so much for being here with me and for all of the support that you've given American Resiliency. If you are able to give, I'm going to be going up to the Midwest Climate Resilience Conference at the end of October to lead a workshop with other professionals about how to communicate and engage with the public about climate resilience. If you're able to throw me 20 bucks, I could use the gas money because dang, Duluth is expensive as I'm getting this trip planned. I would really appreciate any help. And I want to thank Ken K, who has already paid my registration for the conference. It was an enormous help. Thank you, Ken. I also want to promote our AR community chat, which is coming up on October 22nd at 2 p.m. We're going to be talking about housing issues, destination and housing, because many places like Duluth that are a good cold winter destination, oh my gosh, it's being Airbnb'd to death. I want to share some inside perspective from the climate community about what's being done related to this serious issue and hear from you. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.